So back in the early 90s, trying to work as a sculptor, I was working in these invention design prototype shops doing commercial sculpture like toys and action figures, collectibles. And right about that time, the very first 3D printers started to show up on these shop floors for use in prototyping. And this was very early days, probably 3-4 years, after they were available. So, my introduction to it was, through the industry, through work. And at that time, I immediately knew I wanted to make art, but the software and the technology really wasn't suited for that at all. But for the next 20-some years, I worked with it and kept at it. So yeah, that one got a bit of notice, through the Kickstarter thing. I've done quite a few follow-ups, and I've done similar to this project. This is an adaptation of a project called 21st Century Self-Portrait, which is my self-portrait done from a scan of my face, a CT scan of my skull. So the piece is this mask, and it allows you to see through it. It's got this filigree pattern that I use a lot. It allows you to see the skull underneath it, and then the brain's in there, and it's it's my head. So the idea is this one of the oldest themes in art to do a portrait using all this technology, and it represents kind of this newfound reach of our vision and extension of our vision with all this technology and software. So that's that, and I've also been doing some large-scale stuff actually. Not so much using 3D printing, but using software to concept and lay out and plan the models, these really large pieces that I then projection map onto. So I create two-dimensional content and animations and map them specifically to the 3D sculpture that I build, and then do presentations with those as well. I use a lot of softwares. I like Blender a lot, not so much for usability because it's not easy to use. I like the philosophy of open source and shareware, so I'm supportive of that, and I do keep at it for that reason. For organic stuff, ZBrush is good. I use ZBrush. I use SolidWorks for mechanical, kinetic things where you have to have parametric control. Onshape, I started goofing with that. That's a fun thing. It just came out from the SolidWorks camp, and I have high hopes for that. Anything that's is accessible for everyone to get their hands on is really great. And I use a variety of other things for validation and decimation and stuff. MeshLab, of course, and stuff like that. And then I like EOS SLS printers. So EOS makes the best of them, and the material and the way they build really suits my stuff because of the lack of need for rigid geometric supports and so on. But the material is great, and they happen to be great people as well. I like VoxelJet a lot, particularly for adapting my work into metals. And I just like playing with stuff as it comes along, especially the newer companies, and again, the stuff that is more accessible to folks, usually based on price point, but a lot of the lower price stuff is, the quality or even the usability is not there. So things that are effective, this DLP stuff is great, for instance. It's very low tech in a way, DLP, SLA kind of printing, but it's really effective. It really works good, and people can, get their head around it and their wallets around it. So I've done some stuff with FUEL3D in the past, supported a Kickstarter project of theirs actually with a contribution of sculptural work, and so we had a history, and also have a connection through Euformium, who does work with FUEL3D, and I'm doing projects with them. So, and we're all this Kickstarter alumni as well. It's kind of this funny crowd. But so this FUEL3D and Artist Lens Support groups share a group of folks that were organizing the event, and I wasn't really there for it, but I think they want to do something together, and it's very art-based. Brian Fender, who is the vision and the man behind Artist Lens Support, is an artist, and so I think FUEL3D had worked with me and dropped my name right. He's done stuff that's maybe a good fit, and once we got talking, it really just gelled and all came together. Well, so the piece is an adaptation of my 21st century self-portrait, and that was something I started adapting to other people's faces, to do this portrait project. And actually that was like with Euformia and FUEL3D specifically, to address this oldest theme of art, the portrait, and bring all this technology together in this new medium and apply it to that old theme. So I'd already kind of been experimenting with it, and when this came up, it seemed like a very good approach to bring, to represent the vision of Brian Fender's vision for this, and also, kind of honor everyone that supported it, whether they're suffering from it or involved in the effort for one way or another. So it incorporates Brian and his, closest friends and family as the inner circle of the piece, and it radiates outward in a radial pattern of everyone. And the design, the idea of that was that you start to move away from this directly representational portrait of someone, and this design, even though the geometry and the shape is the same as their face, that pattern starts to represent this network of community that we're all there, and you don't focus on the individual as much as the overall pattern. And then within it also there's concentric rings which represent, as you would throw a stone in a pool of water, that ripple effect of Brian's vision and effort and struggle and influence, and how it's affected so many people, brought them together, and it continues to grow. So that's kind of the concept of the piece. It's funny, the future is so now, it's hard to look very far, isn't it? Because you turn around and it's happening. So, there's a lot of beautiful things happening in it too, the stuff with medicine and, and just the empowerment of all these different industries. Of course it was used in the early days and for a long while still in industrial design. But now that it's, we have more intuitive tools to work with it as artists, that's a wonderful thing to see happening. Architecture, of course. And there's an interesting thing happening, as has always been there, but the good side and the dark side, the drones and the guns and, the weaponry that, it will obviously be applied to. It's interesting to see how, how we manage and deal with that. Of course, patent stuff and copyright stuff, the nice thing of all this, it's pressing the issue. We have to deal with this stuff now because it's like, a lot of people just missed that it was happening, and it's like, well, there it is, so a little bit of retroactivity on that. But, it's nice to see things like this kind of force your hand to make, to make some movement forward to keep up with it. So I'm excited about that. As far as, the specific applications, I mean, God knows, really, who knows.